Hello, and welcome to our podcast, Where the Dark Corners Are. Hello. I am Vina, and I am your Dark Travels hostess. Tonight, we have a
road trip with the panda.
and a
In 1995, a team of paranormal travel podcasters found an abandoned cub in the haunted Arctic. After some kick-ass paranormal training and his first alien kill, he was ready. So, if ghosts, serial killers, or monsters in the dark got you scared, don't hesitate to call the Polar Bear. The Polar Bear.
and the dog, if you can hear the dog.
I'm gonna eat the dog.
So tonight, I don't know why I can't get my shit together and do a normal anniversary scenario.
What do you mean?
So we're running at 3.5 years in March.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast was launched in September 2020 during COVID. During COVID, yes. And I just don't understand why I can't just think about, it's our anniversary. We should probably do an anniversary podcast on our actual anniversary.
Yeah, we can do a 4-year, I guess.
I know.
We'll do better next time.
Well, the hope is by the time we reach April-ish, we'll be videoing.
Oh, that would be cool. Like a first episode of anniversary. Or
Right.
did you say March? March is half.
Well, put them on, because we can hear it moving in the thing.
Sounds like this.
Like what?
So, yeah, hopefully mid-March we'll get this room scenario set up. You saw some of the neon lights. So in honor of important dates in our lives, like birthdays, we decided to do bad things on our birthdays. Or things on our birthdays.
Yeah, I don't think it came up with anything good. So, well, I mean, I guess some of it is good, but
So, you want to kick us off?
no. What the
Kick
fuck?
us off.
Catching my breath. I ran outside. So the day I chose just happens to be the same day as my birthday. It's the 4th of September. September 4th, how do you want to say it? So key things to happen on my birthday. Throughout the years 1870, Napoleon was deposed. Geronimo surrenders to the U.S. government.
Sad day.
The Little Rock Crisis.
Little
Red
Rock or...
The
No.
town in Arkansas?
Yeah.
What happened?
Are you kidding me?
So in 1957, 9 black students tried to enter a school that was segregated.
Oh, okay.
But the U.S. government showed up, or the governor called military officials and blocked them from entering the school, which led to the Little Rock 9 developing and then eventually being unsegregating schools in Arkansas.
Gotcha. I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
I'll forgive part of the fact that you're Ukrainian and was born in the Ukraine.
Clinton apologized to Ireland for the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Okay.
2003, Bush
I did
signs
not
the...
have sexual relations with that woman.
No, he apologized for it, so he did. Bush signs into law the PREA for prisons.
You want to elaborate on that? Not everybody
The
knows what
Prison
that is.
Rape Elimination Act in 2003, which has been passed unanimously by both the House and swiftly signed into law, and has received a major Essentially, it's a law only for, I'm assuming, just inmates. So that's the only time we've ever heard about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know who else would have
the P stands for prison, so makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you wouldn't hear anyone else.
I mean, but that's kind of the bad rep that it gets. Like, oh, you go to prison, you're gonna get raped.
Right. Well, I guess, yeah, that's where all the jokes started coming from. They're like, you do what in there? We regained Wake Island in World War II, 1945. Oh, Jim Abbott's first. I don't want to say it's his only no hitter, but throws a no hitter. He was the one-armed pitcher for the Yankees in 1993. That was a good one for my birthday.
93. You weren't even born.
I know. I wasn't born for Wake Island either. Premiere of London Calling.
I think that's a song, right? London Calling.
Yeah. Final episode of Gilligan's Island in 1967. Price is Right returns with Bob Barker in 1972. He had over 8,000 episodes of Price is Right.
Well, he was an American icon.
8,000. Kelly Clarkson wins first American Idol. And we'll go finish off with Los Angeles was founded in 1781
By the Mexicans?
by the Spanish settlers. So half the Mexicans. But the story I decided to go with, which is probably the most unfortunate one, is the story of Steve Irwin's death on September 4th in 2006. Birthday? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, so, yeah.
Could have ended with that.
No, I just...
Oh, no.
Did you not know who Steve Irwin is?
No, I knew who he was, but I mean, like...
Oh, yeah. It's terrible. So, yeah, so the story, an article came out on biography.com, done by Rachel Chang, and was published in 2020. She goes into slight detail about his past, not too much. It's a pretty short article, so if anyone checks it out, read for yourself. It just kind of highlights his love for animals at a very young age, and then he takes over his family's business of a zoo, and he actually kind of transforms it, and then he becomes the crocodile hunter as we all know him since our young days. The show that he did it for since 1997 to 2004, and then at 2006 he was shooting another documentary film, the Ocean's Deadliest. That's what it's called. So he goes out, and this comes with accounting from his cameraman and his one of his closest friends named Justice Lyons, who's been with him for 15 years, Steve Irwin, and he watches him play with animals and do everything he does to, what he does. And so they're out there in the ocean trying to get footage for sharks, and he's trying to find the worst of the worst creature. To him it's not the worst, but the deadliest ones that could, we would fear as any person.
Right, he would consider them beautiful.
Right, you go poke and prod with them, do whatever. But he said the Lions states that there was a storm and they couldn't go out and they weren't finding anything. But he describes Steve Irwin being as like a caged tiger who can't
stay contained.
Still. Yeah, he can't sit still. He's got to go do something. He's like, we're already here. Let's just go do something. So they take a little raft boat, and they go out, and they actually find an 8-foot stingray. It's 8 feet wide in chest deep water. And then they start hanging out with it, and they're doing shot sport because it's going to lead to another segment they're doing later on. And then at some point, the stingray just gets aggravated and starts shooting its tail or whipping its tail in a striking motion at them, and Lyons also trying to avoid it, and the stingray takes off. And not thinking of it, he turns around and sees Steve, and he's standing there in his own pool of blood. And from Lyons' accounts is that he states that Irwin had a high pain tolerance, so he didn't really feel anything. But then he looks down at the amount of blood that's coming out of him so quickly and fast. He's like, we got to go. And as soon as he gets him on the boat, it's already looking bad, and he starts bleeding on the boat. And they try to take him back to shore. And the last words Steve Irwin says to Lyons is, I'm dying. Like, as like a surprise. Because he's kind of looking, he's like, oh shit. And then says what he says. And then when they finally get to shore, which isn't very long, it was only minutes away, he was deemed dead within the first 10 seconds of paramedics showing up.
Well, I know that he was highly revered in the United States. He's an Australian icon, but he definitely turned a lot of opinions about animals here in the United States. So I would consider him an international icon. And I know in the United States, like I said, he was very revered, and it was very sad to hear his passing.
Right. It was terrible. It was terrible. But people claimed that maybe he was messing around with the stingray, and he was being aggressive towards it. And it's like, no.
No, not Steve.
And that's what Lyons even states is though he was doing everything we've done a million times already before. We've dealt with stingrays. He quote unquote puts it as the pussycats of the ocean.
Right.
They're not really a
aggressive or they're not predators. They don't really attack people. In fact, they've been known to approach people.
Right. And so Lyons recounts the day, and he just like maybe it was the shadow of him standing there, and it kind of overlooked the stingray, and the stingray thought it was a shark, which is its number one predator that comes after it, and it just freaked out. I mean, you can't tell. It's a wild animal, so you never know.
Right. Were you familiar with Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even in Ukraine when I was a little kid, I saw his shows. Well, yeah, a lot of even basic his safaris and kids stuff that he was explaining.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, 2006 was when he died, and September 4th was the incident, and he left behind his wife and his 2 children, son and daughter. Age 5 was the daughter, and age 2 was the son, who now that they both are part of it, but at least the son's been on social media doing basically the same thing his dad does now.
Right.
So I don't know about the daughter, but
no, I think she's part of it. She's married and has a child and brings the child around, and so I think they
probably
continue his legacy. All right, Polar Bear, what you got?
Jeez.
I told you, but you wanted to go be first.
Want to take a break?
That was sad.
Oh. So my birthday, yay!
Yeah, it's real personal information. Damn it!
it's on there. It's out there. My birthday is February 4th, and some of the things that happen. Let's start on a funner note. Is in 2000, the video game Sims released its first copy in North America.
Love The Sims.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Simlish life.
Yeah, the simulated life.
Going to work,
whatnot.
Going to bed, watching them do that, and then go to work.
trying to keep your baby from catching on fire.
Yeah,
and all the good things.
Just so you just take away the stairs from the pool and you just watch them.
I don't know what to do.
What am I doing? They don't even speak English, bro. The beginning of Simlish, these languages.
Oh yeah.
They're
Yeah, and I mean a lot of people love the game, and my wife likes the game, but she doesn't like the game for the game. She likes the game for the house designs.
Oh, yeah.
Like creation part of it. Mm-hmm. Like she told me the other day, she's like, I sat down to play it and I couldn't do it. But I built 10 houses within the last week. Like, okay, well. But I guess there's a whole community of people, Facebook groups that just build houses, and with PC and all the mods on it.
Master Race.
Yeah. It makes it easier, I guess. Anyway, 1997, on February 4th, O.J. Simpson was found liable in the death of Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson. So there's that. 1990, this is where it turns darker, I guess. 10 Israeli tourists were murdered near Cairo. I was actually going to do that one for my story until I saw the earthquake. So my main story is in February 4th, 1976, a 7.5 earthquake killed 22,778 people in Guatemala.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
Do you know, and maybe you don't, but do you know if Guatemala is prone to have earthquakes or no? But I mean, it's on the Pacific.
It is on a fault. I was reading it somewhere.
I mean,
Well, so I mean,
The
maybe they're
Ring
used
of-
to it.
the Ring
So-
of Fire, the Pacific Rim. So,
I'll get back to you when I find it.
okay.
But yes, it is on the fault and it's prone to it. But 7.5 isn't even really that terrible compared to like the worst one I looked up to compare it. A 9.5 earthquake is the highest ever reported in Chile, and that one only caused up to like 6,000 deaths. But this one caused, like I said, 22,778 deaths and like 80,000 injuries.
Wow.
And part of the reason it was so bad is because it struck during the morning. It hit at 3:01 a.m. local time. So most people were asleep in their homes. Not everybody felt it. Not everybody could get out in time. And it hit a lot of the populated areas, and it just demolished the houses and the big buildings and all the historic marks and whatnot. So
Yeah, maybe they weren't just built for it. Maybe they.
Right. That was why I was asking if they're familiar with having earthquakes, because then, in theory, the buildings would be retrofit. So, all right. Now, my birthday actually falls in January. I'm Aquarius.
oh, me too.
Aquarius. Virgo.
I'm on the border.
Sure.
Sorry. I'm on the border of the year of the rabbit and the year of the dragon. Some say I'm the rabbit. Some say I'm the dragon.
It's
I
your
feel
year then. Oh, that's not good though.
Why?
Because when it's so I heard if it is your year, your Chinese sign, it's bad luck. Like you celebrate the year, but if it's your year, it's your sign for bad luck.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Were you the one telling me this, or did I hear that somewhere else? I don't know.
I think it was Lisa that said it.
Oh,
I
maybe.
think it was sorry, your sister said that.
Okay, so well, here's some good things that did happen, okay, on January 27th. The United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union all signed an outer space treaty in 1967. So basically, they were like, we agree not to put nuclear weapons in outer space. And it limits the use of the moon for peaceful purposes. So you can't,
Declare war on the moon.
Correct.
I didn't know you needed a document to say that. But it's cool.
On January 27th, and this actually becomes important for a lot of reasons, in 1945, the Soviets liberate Auschwitz. Now, in case you guys don't know this, but Auschwitz is actually in Poland, and I believe this is one of the first concentration camps that gets liberated. And unfortunately, we're talking over 1 million people, or pretty much. Now, important people who were born. So, Lewis Carroll was born in 1932. He wrote Alice in Wonderland. But Mozart, Wolfgang Mozart, 1756.
What's his middle name?
Amadeus.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Correct.
That's his fucking name.
Yeah.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
That's
Badass
a badass
name.
name. Yeah, somebody must have went from the future to the past to make him, because there's no way anybody would just made that up.
Now, I'm actually a Beethoven fan, but whatever.
I didn't know we were picking sides.
Death Days. John Updike, who was an American author, he wrote The Witches of Eastwick, which is, I'm fairly certain that the movie is loosely based on. He died in 2009.
Yeah.
And other people died. But going back to 1945, my birthday is actually known as Holocaust Day, because that's when, again, the Soviets liberated Auschwitz. And it is recognized, Holocaust Remembrance Day is recognized in Moldova and in the United States. So, however, the biggest tragedy happened the day after my birthday. And for the life of me, I am really trying to remember how it was or why it was that I was home for this day. And it was a big day in American history. It was a very unfortunate day in American history. So we're talking January 28th. It was a Tuesday. The year was 1986. And everybody was watching what was about to happen. On this day, the United States was launching the Challenger, a space shuttle into orbit. And its purpose was actually to launch a satellite and launch a small spacecraft called the Spartan Halley that was actually going to track and follow Halley's Comet for a couple of days. And then they were going to pick it up, and then when they came home, bring it home with them. Now, on the Challenger were 6 astronauts and an astronaut teacher. And this was actually a very big deal. Like, it was highly promoted that they were going to put a teacher on the shuttle, the space shuttle. And Krista McAuliffe, I'm very sorry to mispronounce her name, of Concord, New Hampshire. She was selected out of 1,400 other applicants. She, went through the gamut, and she was the one chosen. Ronald Reagan, who was president at the time, this was his program called Teacher in Space, because they wanted to bring more attention. They wanted students, future astronauts of America, to see we could put anybody in space. Now, aside from Krista, astronaut Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, who was the first Japanese American in space, Judith Resnick, who was reportedly the second woman in space, and expert astronauts Gregory Jarvis, Dick Scobie, and Captain Michael Smith. Now, their eagerness to launch the challenge was hampered because there were problems getting the shuttle Columbia back down to space. So, NASA was focused on that, and so there was some initial delays. But, and this is not a typical thing, because the United States typically launches their space shuttle at Cape Canaveral, which is in Florida, which is typically warm all year long. However, on January 27th, the night between the 27th and the morning of the 28th, there was a huge freeze. I mean, a serious freeze that basically deposited a thick slab of ice on the launch pad. Now, because of the freeze, they decided to delay. I guess the spaceship was supposed to take off a little sooner, but they decided to go at 11:38. Now, there was a big misconception that if anything was going to go wrong, it was going to go wrong on the launch. Like, it was going to blow up right then and there.
Well, I think that's usually what happens. Like, whatever, 99% or whatever. Things that go wrong go on the launch.
Right.
It blows up, it goes sideways, it doesn't take off. If anything's going to happen. Yeah.
Right. So it launches, and kind of almost after a minute, NASA's almost like, I think we're in the clear. But after 73 seconds after liftoff, at the altitude of 14,000 meters, the Challenger explodes. And it goes into 2 different directions that we could tell. And sadly, the last recorded voice they hear from the cockpit is believed to be from Captain Smith saying, "Uh-oh." So what happened? Now, for years, this has been an ongoing issue that NASA pretty much ignored. After they brought everything in, they took a look at everything, and they confirmed this major concern that's pretty much was ignored. So because of the freeze, it created an opening in a section of the O-rings that created a gap, allowing gas to leak out. And the gases, combined with the path of the flames, basically set off the explosion that would split the shuttle and the pieces that it did. Now, was under the impression that when it exploded, everything exploded. Doing the research for this particular podcast, I learned very sadly how wrong I was. I initially thought in the explosion, we're going to call it the cockpit. I don't know what they call it. The cockpit exploded too. Apparently, no. The cockpit actually, and I'm talking about the ones containing the astronauts, actually remained intact when it exploded. And they know that at least some of the crew members were still alive and briefly conscious after the explosion because their personal egress air packs, their PEEPs, were activated. And they also know that for Captain Smith, he did not activate his own. Somebody, and they think it was either Resnick or Onzuka, activated for him because the button that was activated for the PEEPs was behind his helmet, which he could not reach at that time. They also know that they were still alive because Captain Smith was trying to get power back on in the cockpit. Now, unfortunately, they believe that they had momentary. You know how when they talk about when you're in the airplane and they're taking off and the stewardess is saying, if we lose air pressure, these are going to come down. So that's what these were, or at least that is my understanding, that they were going to give them a few minutes of oxygen, but a few minutes of oxygen, not enough to sustain. And the cockpit is just part of the shuttle, and it's its own entity. It has no engines. They cannot fly.
It was just the front of the spaceship.
Right.
It was just
they don't have wings. They don't have power.
I understand.
They don't have
It's a little the cockpit.
Yeah.
The little tip part.
Yeah. So the problem is they don't know what eventually killed them all. Because unfortunately, because it had no engine, they have no flying power. It basically slams into the ocean going at 207 miles per hour. So they don't know if they passed out from lack of air because of the air pressure. Like I said, if you're in an airplane and they lose air pressure, you lose oxygen. So they don't know if they suffocated or if the impact of the fall killed them. Now, so basically they do this huge, massive investigation, and they come to the conclusion that basically faulty equipment, the O-ring, which was a concern that was mentioned 15 years prior. People were telling NASA these O-rings are not dependable because they were finding when they would come back down to Earth, the O-rings would be eroded from the trip. And then the poor weather, which they believe contributed to the O-rings bending and causing the gap. And basically NASA saying, fuck it, we're going to do it.
Just trying to save money.
Right. Well, that's
what it's
just
all
it.
about.
Why would you jeopardize all these people's lives with all these concerns with this unexpected cold snap and push your limits? So this is horrific. I mean, there's no doubt. I remember very clearly sitting in my parents' bedroom, watching their TV and seeing this happen. Now, the loss of the astronauts and the teacher astronaut, the faith in the NASA. I mean, this is a horrific moment. And then for me, this is terrible. But then I read that the teacher in space was actually Plan B. Because NASA's trying to promote and get people interested in space exploration. The original plan for the Challenger was actually to have Carol Spinney. Now, I know you don't know who Carol Spinney is, but I promise you know what role Carol plays. Carol is the actor who played Big Bird on Sesame Street. NASA originally intended to have Big Bird be on the Challenger.
Oh, yeah.
And fortunately, it was his costume that was too big to fit. There's no room for Big Bird. But I have to tell you, you would have fucking traumatized the nation, as horrific as it already was, for children to have seen one of their beloved icons blow up in space. Right. So, but that didn't happen. All right. So that is what we have for you tonight. On to business.
Oh, I have final thoughts.
Oh, well, we're not there yet.
Oh, okay. Facebook. We have a Facebook page where the Dark Corners are, and you can go on there, comment, ask questions, leave concerns.
Thanks for that terrible podcast episode.
Yeah, don't say that ever again on your podcast. Yeah, if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, drop a comment or a message, or
send us an email.
Send us an email at where the dark corners are at yahoo.com. Gmail.com.
All right, Panda, final thoughts.
Well, I didn't do birthdays. I share the same birthday as Beyonce. Wes Bentley, he was the game master in the first Hunger Games. Damian Wayans,
the guy with
the curls.
I didn't meet him. I've seen him in Sacramento at one of the hotels, and that was like the only celebrity I've ever seen. And it didn't click at first. I was like, that guy looks really familiar. And as we ate breakfast, and I stared at him for about 30 minutes, I was like, oh, it's the Ghost Rider guy.
The Ghost Rider guy.
Yeah,
oh my
he's the
God.
bad guy in the first Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and he's in Hunger Games. And I think it was when Pete's Dragon came out.
He was the
in
dad.
Yeah.
What's up, Damian Wayans and Max Greenfield from New Girl. If anyone else has watched that show.
You love that show.
I fucking love that show. And John DiMaggio. He does the voice of Bender.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He does the voice of like
a bunch
half of that show.
Okay. Were those your final thoughts?
Did you want me to have more?
No, we're good.
So my final thoughts are, yes, Guatemala is prone to earthquakes. The country lies on a major fault zone known as Motagua and Chixi Palachic Fault Complex, which cuts across Guatemala and forms a tectonic boundary between the Caribbean Plate and North American Plate.
Okay.
So it's kind of like San Andreas Fault.
Mystery solved. All right. So until next time, please remember, only the few can find the beauty in the darkness, which is where we hope to meet you, where the dark corners are.